I open my eyes and everything hurts. I quickly realize that I'm laying in a hospital bed. Noticing my awake, a nurse starts speaking to me in rapid Mandarin and places a phone by my ear. Emilie, Emilie, what's happening? Dad, I think I fell off a horse. I look down at my arms and all I see is blood. I can't feel my legs. I start to panic. No, Dad, I've been in a car accident. And then everything goes black. My name is Emilie Uttrup, and this is my story. It all started 9 years ago when I moved to China to pursue a dream to become a professional horse rider. So at 19, I headed solo to Dalian, China. 6 weeks in, my stay took a dramatic turn when I was a passenger in a tragic car accident. The last thing I remember was feeling uncomfortable with how fast we were going on the narrow country road. Later I was told that we had swept off the road, flipped, rolled down a hill and landed upside down in a lake. The driver and I were the only two wearing our seatbelts, and also the only two survivors. So there I was, waking up alone with no idea where I was or what had just happened. The next time I woke up, my mom was there. I remember the look on her face when she saw me. I remember the fear in her eyes. I remember looking in the mirror not being able to recognize myself. My whole face was swollen, black, blue, with stitches and wounds everywhere. And in that moment, I realized how serious the accident had been. 3 weeks after, I was cleared to fly home to Denmark. But little did I know at the time that this was when the real recovery began. The mental recovery. When you're 19, you possess a certain feeling of invincibility. The accident changed all that for me. I spent a lot of time punishing myself for moving to China. I felt broken and filled with feelings I didn't know how to handle. Depression, fear, guilt. I was no longer invincible. I tried to get back into horse riding as soon as I was physically able, but something had changed. I had changed. I didn't enjoy jumping anymore. It took me a long time to admit it to myself. By giving up horse riding, I felt like I was giving up on myself and that I had lost my identity. I felt like a failure. As much as we can't control what happens to us in life, we can control how we choose to deal with it. One day I realized that I had been given a second chance and that it was up to me to make the most of it, even if it didn't involve horses anymore. I didn't want to be afraid or sad or angry anymore. I wanted it to be strong again. This was when I remembered a promise I made to myself when I first woke up in that hospital bed in China. I said to myself, if I'm ever going to be able to walk again, I want to learn how to surf, and I don't want to be afraid of traveling. So instead of being afraid of the unknown, I went into a travel agency and came out with a one-way ticket to Australia. After everything I went through that past year, moving to Australia was one of the scariest decisions I ever made. But sometimes the things we're most afraid of starting ends up being the most beautiful chapters of our lives. I moved to Sydney and signed up for a weekend surf trip. Even though I absolutely sucked, that first time I stood up was everything. It was challenging. It brought a rush of adrenaline, joy, freedom, and everything I used to feel from horse riding. I had found my mojo again. My time in Australia was life-changing, and learning to surf healed me in a way that no amount of physical therapy or medicine could ever do. Today I live in a coastal town in Portugal, where I get to surf every day, and every once in a while I marvel at where life has taken me, or rather, where I have taken myself. If you have told me when I was 18 that this would be my life, I wouldn't have believed it. I still have moments where I wish the accident never happened. However, I slowly, sometimes very painfully, learned a lot from how I dealt with the trauma and its consequences. For years I tried to keep it all to myself. But with time I discovered how important and healing it is to share our feelings, even when it's difficult, and how much we can learn from each other if we dare to open up. I learned that vulnerability is a strength and not a weakness. I learned to lead a positive life and to smile often. I learned to not be afraid or drawn by the fragility of life, but to celebrate and embrace every moment of it. The last 9 years have taught me that dreams can change, and that's okay. So while I can't change the past, I can appreciate the present for everything it is. Surfing gave me the opportunity to feel alive again, to travel, to seek new experiences, to connect with new people, to challenge my fears, and to go after what I want. It brings me happiness, and the ocean is my healer. And ultimately, surfing taught me that it's not about how many times you fall, it's about paddling out and trying again.